Hello, everybody. I hope everyone of you guys are doing good today. So let's get our class started. So I have a question before we start. Between the pre-refinement session and the refinement session, we calculate the user story points using the Fibonacci sequence, right? But who decides the value of the points? For example, whether it is 1 hour, 8 hour, or 4 hours. Okay, so let me tell you. As a QA tester, it's your responsibility to decide the story points. However, this decision is collaborative effort between you and the other team members. For example, you are working on two user stories. Okay, so you are working on two user stories. You write 20 case scenarios and other QA tester writes 25 scenarios for the same stories. During the workshop meeting, you compare notes and combine all the scenarios into one comprehensive set. Let's say 40 to 45 scenarios in total. Now, as a team, you will discuss an estimate like how much time you will need to understand the requirements, then how much time to write test cases and scenarios, and lastly, time for reviews and execution of the test. Once you reach the consensus, you will formally declare the effort estimation in the refinement session. But remember, the effort estimation for user stories must always follow the Fibonacci sequence. The Fibonacci sequence is specific to user story estimation. Sprints, on the other hand, are typically fixed length iterations of 2 weeks, like 14 days, and are related to the Fibonacci series. Okay. So now let's clarify the accounts for Jira and Confluence. Suppose I have provided two email address, email one and email two. So I have provided you two shared emails. You will also need to create and use a personal account with your own email address. Okay? So you open the Chrome, click on the profile icon. So you go to Chrome, click on profile, then add a new profile for the shared email. Use the shared email and password to log in into the Confluence. Okay. Uh, now you can create your personal account and link it with Jira for smooth integration. Okay. Now So you all are a member of the our team account, right? You can work on the project now. Last time you mentioned adding me as a member of the conference, so I did that. I sent you an invitation, and then I tried checking in my space, but I couldn't find your name and account. Okay, so I'll check again. You can send me your conference link, and it will be connected to your Jira. It's the same as the project, so it doesn't matter. Okay. Suppose one of you, like X, created account with his email and open this account for the team. So he created an account for the team. He created a project and space where so he created a project and space where Y and Z have accesses, and probably other team members as well. You have access because X shared it with you, but do you have any admin rights on the organizational rule? Did you open the account with your email and ID? No. So you guys don't have any admin rights. Okay. So X has the admin rights. In this project and space, you both create projects and spaces, but if you try to integrate it, you won't be able to do it. You need admin rights to integrate. So X has the rights, and if he gives you the permission, then you will be able to do it. Otherwise, you won't have any permission to do work. Even if you have another project in Jira, which is opened with your email and ID, if you tried to link it with his Confluence space or a space you created under his page, it won't work until he gives you admin rights. Got it? Okay. So I will tell you to everyone to have a team account and open a personal Jira and Confluence using the same email ID you use for the team. For example, if X added you as a member with his email ID, you should use that same email to open your personal account. You need to be in the team account so that you can work together. You will need to upload test cases and other tasks if you have to do it as a team. Usually, the test lead does this on the behalf of the group. But to reduce the workload, X or anyone with the admin access can give others the organizational role and permissions so they can also handle the tasks like the task test lead. However, this isn't the professional way to do it. For now, you can practice like this to get the work done, but professionally, it doesn't work like this. You should have personal accounts because it's important to practice from the start. Whatever work you do with your team, you should practice it on a personal account too. This will help you gain more clarity and make the process stick in your mind, preparing you for interviews and progress the job field. So, am I clear? So, we learned that we need to break down the subtasks. There are some tasks for developers and some for the QA testers. So, uh, we need uh, we need to follow the know how to divide the subtasks. The subtask I showed you doesn't have follow the same sequence as the backlog. For example, in case of a developer, so in case of a developer, There could be design, coding, unit testing, and integration testing, code reviews, bug fixes. Okay, so the unit testing is done by the developers at the code level. And it's different from the testing that we as the testers do. We focus on component testing, integration testing, and bug fixes. So integration testing, bug fixes. This is the real life process followed by the developers. However, when you creating subtasks in your backlog, they don't necessarily have to follow this exact same sequence. For example, you may find a unit testing task in the backlog, but other steps might not be listed. It depends on the environment and the work at hand. Okay, so we learned how to create a new version. For example, Sprint 1, adding the points, assigned tasks, and inviting members. We also learned how to give admin rights and how to create sprints. We learned how to send tasks to different statuses when the sprint starts. For example, you create the first version of something. It can be version 1.0. After few months, when you release an e-commerce website and there are bug fixes, the next version can be 1.1, then 1.01, 1.11, depending on the changes. Okay. Once the version is updated, we learn how to track that in Jira. In the backlog, so in the backlog, let's check sprint one. See the email. Wait. So you can see it, right? So see the small writing in here, the WR feature, registrations, features and login functionality should be tested. This is how a Scrum Master will define the goal of a sprint. Then when we start the sprint, we get familiarized with the Jira board. Usually there are three main status. Okay, like to do in progress and done. But you can customize it. For example, you could use the dev in progress, QA in progress, and done to make the workflow more specific. Once you start the task, it is important to understand the flow, such as when it's with developers, then QA and product owners. When the product owner is given the green signal, the task moves to the done status. Now, next, let's look at the adding child issues. For example, when you create a user story, Okay, here you can see when we can create a user story, we can add child issues on this. These child issues can be added directly from the Jira ticket. Okay, so you can click this add child issues, then create an issue. When creating subtasks, it's essential to remember that they don't have to follow the same sequence as real-world workflows. They can be flexible based on the specific requirements of the user state. For instance, developers and testers need to understand the requirements. This part is for both developers and testers. You can add the subtasks for both sides. Now remember, you can assign tasks to specific team members, change the status and add points for each task. Alright, now let's dive into how we estimate work during our sprints. This is an important part of the Agile methodology, where developers, testers, and other team members break down their features into smaller tasks and assign points based on the complexity and effort. So first, let's talk about story points. Story points help us to estimate the effort required to complete a particular task and features. Now, how do we estimate the story points? We often use the Fibonacci sequence for this. The Fibonacci sequence looks like 1, 2, 3, 5, 8, 13, etc. Each number is the sum of the two preceding members. We use this sequence to estimate tasks because the numbers grow exponentially, which reflects the increasing uncertainty and the complexity of the task grows. For example, if a developer estimates that a task requires 3 points, it's based on the understanding of the effort involved. Okay. But if they say that they need 5 points, it might mean that the task is more complex and there's some uncertainty involved. And if 8 points, it could indicate that the task is even more difficult or has more unknowns. So in agile environment, we ask how many points does each part of the work need? So let's look at a typical process like understanding the requirements. Maybe can take 1 point, then design can take 5 point, coding can take 8 point, unit testing can take 5 point. So each team member will estimate these points, but remember, we don't just assign them arbitrarily. These are discussed in meetings with the teams, and everybody needs to come to an agreement. Okay. Now for sprint duration and story points. A sprint is about uh, 2 weeks long. Sprint 2 weeks long. This means that you are going to complete all the work you estimated within these 14 days. So 14 days. The sprint is based on a set of working time. For example, if you are working 8 hours per day for 5 days a week, that gives you 80 hours in total for the 2 week sprint. So 8 hours, 1 day. But story points are not always directly tied to hours. One point might represent half a day's work or 1 day's work. So, depending on the complexity of the tasks and the team's norms, some companies can have different approaches. But that's the general idea. Now, a common question may arise, why do we follow the Fibonacci sequence for story points? The Fibonacci sequence allows the teams to better reflect uncertainty. When estimating small tasks, it's easy to be precise. But as the tasks grow in complexity, it's harder to accurately estimate, and that's where the large number in the Fibonacci sequence come into play. Let's say you assign 13 points to a task. Does that mean it's guaranteed to take 13 hours? No. It just means that the task is significantly more complex and requires more effort. So when you assign these points, it's about aligning with the team's collective understanding of the effort required. One important point here is that you shouldn't assign 13 points just because it's the next number in the sequence. Instead, it should be a collaborative decisions among the teams, taking into account the task requirement. Now, who approves the points you assign? This typically goes through a collaboration process. So after the developer estimate the points, the product owner and the QA lead come into play. They need to ensure that the points make sense and the task is feasible within the sprint. For example, if a developer suggests 8 points for coding, they need to justify it. The product owner might ask, why does this task need 8 points? After the developer has to explain the reasons, such as the task being complex, having lot of dependencies, or requiring extensive testing. The ultimate approval rests on the product owner. But the developers need to justify their reasoning clearly. The goal is to make sure the task is well scoped and the resources are allocated wisely. In Agile, time is money, so companies are always looking for ways to minimize expenditure while maximizing values. Okay, now let's talk about child issues and subtasks. This is when things get really granular. After a developer completes the main tasks, they break it down into smaller subtasks to better manage the work. Let's say the task is to implement a new feature, but it needs smaller tasks like designing the feature, coding the feature, Then unit testing the feature. So it can be designing, coding, unit testing. These child issues of subtasks are directly linked to the parent story. The team will discuss each subtask and the point will be broken down accordingly. Okay, so here is an example. You can see the child issues here, which can be broken down. So as part of the process, you will see the status updates as the each work progresses. The main steps are to do, in progress, QA, in progress, final check, done. So in to do, when the developer starts the task, it's called to do. Then in progress, when the developer is actively working on it. Then when it moves to the tester, it says QA in progress. After that, when both developers and testers check the tasks, it goes to final check. And when the work is complete, the task is signed off to the done. Every time there is a transition, you should update the status to reflect it. This helps the entire team stay informed and ensures that the tasks don't get lost in the shuffle. Okay? So every day there is a daily stand-up meetings. In these meetings, the developers and testers discuss their project. Here's how it works. The developers update testers about the status of the work. Then the testers update developers about the progress with the test cases. This meeting is essential for ensuring that everyone is aligned and the tasks are moving forward. It usually takes 15 minutes, but it can take longer if there are issues that need to be discussed in more details. Excuse me. Af- After testing, sometimes bugs are found. Even if everything was marked as pass in the initial testing phase, in such cases, screenshots are crucial. After analyzing test results, you should attach screenshots or logs to the test cases so you can prove that the results are accurate when the tests are executed. This document will be then sent to the product owner or the QA lead for the final review. If a bug is found, the task goes back to the developer for fixing. Then it returns to the tester for retesting. Alright, so now you cannot see the child issues directly into the main view. Okay, but if you click on the subtask section, you will be able to view them. This will show you all the subtasks that are in the progress in the QA phase. For example, I've changed the status of two child issues and now they're showing up. You can track updates related to the epic associated with the user story by simply clicking on the subtasks, and you'll see the detail on the right side of the panel. Okay. You can also modify the subtasks here by dragging them around, and if you need to move them to a different section, it's possible to do that from the backlog or directly from the board view. So to sum up, you can track the progress and move subtasks as needed in both the backlog and the board views. All team members involved in the work will have their assignments shown here. The developers are assigned by the technical lead and the testers are assigned by the test lead. Now, are you clear about how this works? Okay. Now, let's come to an important part, test cases. Where you create an issue, you see options like story. Here you can see options like story, tasks, and EP. But there is no direct issue type for test. So what we do in this case, since Jira doesn't provide a test issue type, we use an external test management tool called Zephyr Squad. This is an add-on that integrates seamlessly with Jira and allows you to manage test cases. So let me show you how to install the Zephyr Squad. So first you navigate to the app section on your Jira project, okay? Then click on more apps and search bar type Zephyr and hit enter. You will see multiple results like scale, squad, etc. Click on Zephyr Squad and you will be prompted to install it. Uh, Select get it free and to install it. Once it's installed, you will get a notification at the bottom left corner of your screen. You can double check if the integration was successful by going back to your project. Okay. Clicking on apps again and searching for Zephyr. If you see the highlighted squad, it means the tool has been successfully integrated to your project. Once it is set up, you can click on it, enable it, and you will have access to a new interface where you can start writing and managing test cases. In this interface, you can create folders for organizing test cases and writing new ones. You will define the test cases name, subjective, preconditions, priority, owner, and estimate time for completions. Okay, so you can see it, right? You will also assign the next test level, whether it is for regression or smoke testing. We'll go over the process in the next class. Now, in this, after the Zephyr squad is installed, let's look at how you can create test cases. After opening the interface, to create a test case, you need to provide test case name, like what's the purpose of the test, objective, what do you aim to get here, then precondition, what are the prerequisites or conditions that must be met before the test is run, then priority, is this a critical test case or low priority, then owner, who is responsible for the test case, Then estimate the time. How long do you think it will take to execute the test case? Additionally, you will define the level of the test, whether it is for smoke testing, regression testing, or any other type of testing. All of these fields help to ensure that the tests are well organized and can be tracked easily. If you want a deeper tutorial, you can how to use this, just let me know. I can create one for you. But with that, what I've shown today, you should be able to get started right away. So moving on to the group work, I understand that some of you have missed sessions, but I want to stress the importance of the teamwork. If anyone of the group is falling behind or needs help, it's your responsibility to support them. This is an important part to work in an agile environment where collaboration is the key. For example, in your team, there are two groups, and the work will split between them. If any group is missing members or feels stuck, you should step up to help each other. It's important to be proactive in your support your peers to ensure the work progresses smoothly. Now let's review some of the work you have done. For example, uh, one of you wrote a test case for adding a project to the shopping cart. But I can see there are some important details missing in your test case. The steps you wrote could be more detailed. For example, when you are writing a test case for add to cart, you should start with navigate to the page containing products. Then select product and so on. This helps anyone who reads the test case understand exactly how to execute it. Okay? Now, um, additionally, make sure to include the prerequisites and test data. For example, in test data, you should include the URL or any specific tools or resources needed for the test. This will ensure your test is repeatable. Okay. Also, don't forget to add numbers to the test steps and use templates as given. You must follow the format precisely to maintain consistency across all the tests. Also, ensure you write both expected and the actual results. Even if you don't have actual results yet, you can write an expected results and indicate that the actual results will be updated later when the test is executed. So you can see it here. So to summarize, I want you to focus on creating detailed test cases with clear steps and conditions. Your priority should be to write tests that are easy to follow and that captures all the requirements. When you submit your works, make sure that to follow the template I've provided and to include all the necessary details like precondition, test data, expected results. Lastly, if you are still behind or need any assistance, don't hesitate to ask your team members or me. Now, you need to follow a structured approach for writing test cases. For example, If you are working on the add to cart functionality, you will need to assign 8 points for that. When working on Jira, you will need to so while working on Jira, you will need to issue the issue link tag, which can either be relates to or blocked by. Let me show an example from Jira. You will get a link like user story ID. Okay. Each features you are working on has its own Jira ticket number, which is automatically created. You must document the test cases clearly. I want to emphasize that all of your test cases should go under one test case template. Let's say for add to cart, two of you are working on the registration module. Once you finish the test case, for example, up to test case 050, the next set of test cases, which would be for login, should start from test case 051. You get the idea, right? It's important to maintain the sequence into the Excel sheet. Now, the test cases should follow a template. Okay, so here is our template. Let's talk about the issue key and ID. In Jira, every issue is linked with a unique user ID. If you find a bug or related issue, the Jira ID must be added to the test case template. In the issue link type field, the relevant Jira ticket ID will be filled out here. Okay. When you complete a set of test cases, make sure you fill out all the details like reporter, sent person, and the status. Once the test case is approved by the test lead, you mark it as approved. Also, make sure to include the epic link from Jira and add the relevant issue link tag, either relates to or blocked by. You can copy this from a Jira board. Then the sprint name can be anything, just use a name that represents the sprint we are working on. Now let's talk about the content of the test cases. For example, when we work on the add to cart functionality, you can verify the following. The confirmation message after adding a product to the cart. Check that the cart icon is updated correctly. Verify the border appearance to the add to cart button. Ensure that the add to cart button is disabled when the product is out of stock. So my feedback for you is to go through the requirements again and write down any test case or step you may have missed. So some of your test cases are missing sections of guest checkout and registered customer account. These should be separate test cases with their respective expected results. For example, to verify checkout as a guest and verify checkout as a registered customer should be broken down into smaller test steps, like checking billing details, delivery options, and confirmation messages. So here's a better way to structure the test case. Uh, so you start with the test case name, then break it down to the small steps, like test data, test test expected results, actual results. The test data will include the details like URLs or credentials needed for the test. In the test steps, there it should be clear and numbered. The expected results is like what you expect from each test step, and the actual results is what actually happens on there. So follow the same template, fill out all the required columns, and break down each functionality into manageable steps. So remember to always use the test case template. If you ever find a discrepancy or are unsure about something, just check the template and follow it. And for future cases, please make sure to avoid using a regular Excel sheet when using. You should be using the template. It will be uh, helpful to maintain uniformity. For the next steps, those who haven't worked on the functionality yet should start working on search functionality or even the wish list or the shopping cart. We need to make sure that these areas are covered as well. Now listen carefully. If you don't complete these tasks in timely manner, you are going to have more weeks later on, and it's going to get harder to keep up. Don't let this happen. Start now and get ahead of the curve. Once you've completed the test cases, submit them to me before the next class, because in the next session I'll show you how to import test cases into Jira. In manual testing, we follow a detailed approach where we test everything manually without the assistance of automation tool. In the automation part, however, things will change. Here we are using automatic testing tool to execute and perform test cases. It depends on what you're comfortable with. Manual testing involves a lot of repetitive work where you test everything manually. Automation testing, on the other hand, requires you to learn coding and automation tools. So while both have their challenges, it's about what you feel more comfortable doing. But I can say that automation will require more upfront learning. So we will wrap up our manual testing pretty soon, and but the automation testing will take longer. We have a much longer syllabus to cover for the automation. It's a more in-depth process, especially since we'll be learning programming and how to work with automation frameworks. But don't worry, you will catch out to it as we go along. So we start with the manual testing, and once you're comfortable, we move on to the automation. You'll get hands-on experience with both approaches, and by the end of the course, you will have a solid understanding about how both works. So those of you who are comfortable with Excel and don't have any issues, feel free to leave. But those who are still facing problem with Excel, you can stay with me and make sure you're done with your work before the next class. Okay? So it's all for today now. Uh, so still, if you face any problem, you can note me. or we'll discuss them into the next class. Till then, everyone take care of yourself. Okay? Bye.